I think that's a really, really tricky one, because in my experience over the last 4 years, where perhaps something really good has been produced, worked up, a lot of investment has gone on from one supplier, the battle between a pilot to make the product work, or be tested rather, and a consistent application of it is a very difficult one to resolve. But in my position as a national lead for policy for prosecuting authorities on forensic science, it's no good if it is not consistently available and applicable and expressed throughout at least this country, this jurisdiction, England and Wales. It's no good if one area completely understands one product, but another area hasn't even heard of it, hasn't even got a simple prosecutor's one-page guide as to what that particular product or service is. Just imagine for a moment, I don't know how many of you understand the CPS structure, but Crown prosecutors have the power, in fact the duty, to decide on the charges. It used to be that the police forces chose the charges within an investigation, but now it is only there for the Crown prosecutors to decide the charge. As well as the 42 Crown Prosecution Service areas, we have CPS Direct, which is a 24/7 telephone supply of advice and charging decisions provided by CPS prosecutors. Now, their remit is, of course, to cover the whole country out of the usual office hours. If there isn't a consistent expression and approach to a particular product or service, how is that service, which if it's out of hours is very often going to be coming at quite a critical time, how are they supposed to know what the individual service might be and what its strengths might be and weaknesses might be within the prosecution process? So that's one plea. Clarity, obviously, make sure we all mean the same thing by the same words. And of course, certainty, actually originally that had a sort of, it would be nice, wouldn't it? But of course, certainty is never actually going to be there, because partly we're always innovating. And on the right-hand side are the 4 points that I would say for the future: whatever service or product has to achieve certainly these top 3, there's no question. And these are words I really would encourage us all to address our minds to. Obviously scientifically strong, without a doubt legally constructed. And I put a caveat in there, not just according to contract law and services and civil law, legally constructed in terms of the ultimate demands that will be made of it by the criminal justice system. And of course, with the kind of work, information, material that's going on, the need to be ethically sound is in fact paramount. Now, again, I just go back to my comment about the uncomfortable bedfellows of government and commercial organisations. To be able to innovate, experiment, find new ways of exploring personal data, personal information, the need to keep a strong ethical backbone to that is, I believe, vital. And that will also, of course, help things to stand up much better to the scrutiny that it will undergo in court. Morally managed, whose morals, what's morals, how do you fit morals into your business plan for the next 3 years? But that's really there just as a pointer that ethics and morals are slightly different, but in the arena we're working in, we have to have an awareness, certainly, of the perception of morality. Again, repeating the partnership point and just building a little bit on the commercial and competitive nature of improving products and services. My concern has been that under cross-examination, one supplier of one service, so an expert for one company, says that the expert for the other company's process, that's a rubbish process, and therefore ours is great. Cross-examination becomes almost a marketing exercise. And I'm sure, bearing in mind that the 4 key points about the ethical and the moral and the legally sound, we can't let that develop, because that will actually end up undermining, I think, probably all of us, and certainly the criminal justice system. And if you look at it in those terms, where does that leave public confidence? Company A says that form of analysis is absolute rubbish, it's flawed, it's got this, that and the other in. Company B says ours is wonderful, then company A says, well, no, but yours is wrong in this part and that part. And then what we're doing is we're growing an industry of experts who will simply feed on the differences. And from the defence side, everything, of course, needing to be appropriately challenged, you simply build up a body of what's wrong with each of the products and services rather than focusing on what's right. Now, when I come to making a point about case management, just hang that in your head if you would. I put a quote in there from Sir Ken MacDonald, who was DPP for much of the time that we watched the forensic science community commercialising, as it were. And he came up with a very blunt response in terms of this intelligence and evidence point that I've tried to make. He said, if suppliers ain't going to disclose, we ain't going to use them to prosecute. Again, do feel free to ask questions about that, but I think that was fairly unambiguous.